Hello and welcome to Huddersfield Town's post-match show after a 1-1 draw against Stoke City. To talk us through the action, I'm delighted to say I'm joined by former Huddersfield Town players Dean Whitehead and Phil Starbuck. How are you both? You okay?
Yeah, really well, thank you.
Very well, thank you.
Excellent. Dino, I'll start with you. Obviously, 1-1 draw, but there's a lot of disappointment after this one, isn't there? Because we had, I think, 70% of the ball, created a number of chances, but didn't come away with all 3 points.
Yeah, I think obviously when the manager reflects, I think it'd be a really disappointed dressing room, frustration, of how they've managed to come away with 1 point. But I mean, they had a number of balls in the box, number of opportunities. Whether that was a lack of movement in the box or lack of quality coming in the box, they'll be really frustrated. They haven't finished the game with 3 points.
I was going to say, Phil, this was a large topic of conversation on Tuesday night on the show after Bristol City, where again we had a lot of the ball, we created lots of chances, but didn't come away with any points. We obviously got a point today, which is the positive, but equally to not get 3 points here is frustrating.
Yeah, that's the only positive for me. I was pulling my hair out. I'm just so glad I'm not a manager. Flipping heck. My blood pressure be going through the roof. I was so frustrated at some of the decision making of the players. It almost goes from one extreme to another. You got the first third of the first half. It was good. They're passing it well from the back. There was a bit of tempo, keeping it well. We scored early doors. And then it goes into the kind of the second third of the first half, and Stoke were kind of pressing a bit more. And it's almost like Town didn't know how to get out of that. That they were either knocking it forward 2 or 3 times to Campbell up front. He can't deal with it up here. There's not many strikers that can when you've got no one around you and getting close to the ball. And then it brought on this little spell where they were gambling so much just inside their own half, and there were sloppy passes, and we conceded the goal from that ultimately. And then the latter half of the first half, it got a little bit more lively. But the second half was so frustrating with 10 men. Now I know it can go one of 2 ways. That people will say, yeah, they've got 10 men, they should win. And then you've got that added pressure of trying to create something when Stoke are just putting everyone behind the ball. But surely we've got more passion and life. And
in terms of that and the second half, and the tempo, when you're on the pitch and teams like Stoke, they're down to 10 men. At times, they even had 10 men in their own box defending balls and stopping us from breaking through. What do you have to do differently then? Because we're working the ball out wide, putting crosses in, but obviously, like I said, there were like 9, 10 men in their own box at points. What do you do or have to do differently then to stop them from clearing the ball and to score the goal?
It's really difficult. 10 against 11. I mean, you do these practices in training where you do overloads and you work it and you don't score any goals. Honestly, the amount of times you would do a 10v11 and the 11 wouldn't score. When teams really bank in and they were really resolute and organised and solid. They were letting the ball go out wide. The fullbacks weren't steaming out. They were keeping nice and compact in the middle. They were leaving Pippa on the ball a little bit, and Bender was right inside onto the fullback McLean second half. And I think you just have to really move the ball really quickly and take some risks when you're passing forward passes. Take risks, go 1v1, take players on. Try and be a little bit more creative. And I just felt it was a little bit. Yes, we were keeping the ball side to side. The big switch of play come 20, 30, 40 times. And the midfield runner was running inside and they'd worked that out after 10, 15 minutes, Stoke. And they were leaving the fullbacks in there. And Lewis and Bakker were running onto McLean and Collins in the fullback areas. And they weren't moving. They were happy for the ball to go out wide and come in the box because they felt that they could defend their box, which they did. They defended in numbers. And towards the end, I think there was 4, 5, 6 Huddersfield players in the middle of the box. I mean, when you, I think you can almost have too many in the box, because as soon as you do that, there's another 4, 5, 6, 7 Stoke players, and it's really, really congested and difficult to find some space. But I think ultimately they'll be disappointed they didn't break them down in the end.
Because it was very different from the game against Bristol City, where we were dynamic, we're brave on the ball. This was kind of a little bit more of a throwback back to the Millwall game, when they did a similar job on us like Stoke did today. Do you think, Dino, when teams are doing a lot of analysis work, that they can kind of work teams out like Stoke did? They allowed us to have a lot of the ball. I think it was, like I said earlier, 70% possession. Obviously that was hindered for them because they did have 10 men, but they let us have the ball, and then they launch a counter attack against us because they know that at this moment in time we are struggling a little bit to break teams down.
Yeah, obviously that's something that people do look at. You see it a lot nowadays. The teams that play against the top teams in the Premier League, they will sit in. They will not leave any space in behind them for Benzers to run into, for Aarons to run into, for Barker, for Lewis. So they just condensed that space closer to their goal, and Huddersfield just didn't have the answers. I mean, because the first half, I think for the first 12 minutes, obviously they both started 4-3-3, and Obi Mikel was very deep in the middle. So Vallejo, is that how you pronounce his name? He was getting on the ball an awful lot. Yeah. He was getting on the ball an awful lot, and it was very, very easy to pass the ball. And obviously they scored in that spell. So after about 12, 13, maybe 14 minutes, they slightly tweaked their system. They kind of went 4-2-3-1, and Allen started to push on to Vallejo, and they stopped them playing, and they put them under a little bit more pressure. And that's the times where Huddersfield struggled to move the ball quickly. That's where they had the spell in the middle of the first half where it got a bit messy. There was mistakes, there was errors, there was sloppy passes. But if teams do sit in, then it's work on a training ground. What can we do to break teams down?
Because obviously, Dino, this is the first point that we've picked up in 2021. We've been struggling, obviously, a little bit of late just to get those points on the table. Could you tell that in the way, in the confidence that the guys had, maybe snatching at chances or not being, like we said, so brave with the ball? And psychologically, what can that have on your attacking players when you're in those kind of opportunities?
I don't think so. I think they started the game bright. They started with energy. Obviously there was mistakes within that. I think they were brave on the ball. I think Keogh obviously took the ball a lot. So did Sarr. Yes, they made some errors. Obviously it was a game plan of the switch of play would be on, as Stoke play quite narrow as a back four. Field, I thought Lewis O'Brien runs his socks off every week. I thought Barker was good today. I thought Barker was very good today, because I think Huddersfield didn't really play into Fraser. I thought they played the diagonal, and Sarr in the first half an hour, he just couldn't hit it. He couldn't hit it. He tried to hit Mbenza 5, 6, 7 times, and for whatever reason, he found his range second half because there was a man down and less pressure on him, because at that time Allen had squeezed up and put him under a little bit of pressure in that spell in the first half. But I think they obviously tried to hit Mbenza, hit the fullbacks, and get the midfield runners kind of in between the fullback and centre back, but Stoke just didn't allow it to just stay compact, stayed narrow, stayed organised, communicated, and really Huddersfield didn't really trouble them too much. Bar Lewis hit the crossbar second half.
Yeah.
Left foot wide. Apart from that, it wasn't really any.
Run through the goals. Phil, obviously, Pepe scored his first goal at the John Smith Stadium. He's been a breath of fresh air since he came to the club in the summer. Really attacking outlet, and he showed what he can do with the ball, didn't he, for that goal?
Yeah, I like him. He's a good player. He's attacking, isn't he? He's lively. Yeah, he wants the ball. Like Dean was talking about courage. You know, for a striker, you know, there's also a moral courage having the ball anywhere on the pitch, I guess. But I like him. He gets forward, is lively. He wants the ball, and it was a great move. The game was going well for Town. There was a good period of play. It was a great break, wasn't it? And as the ball has gone over the top to the back to Mbenza, he again has knocked it back to him. Had a touch. It's a deflection, but who's bothered as long as it ends up in the back of the net? You'd claim it, wouldn't you? So I like him. He's a good player. I like him.
Yeah, and then obviously, Dino, it went 1-1, a penalty for Stoke City. The questions on social media from the supporters of whether it was a foul or not. I mean, we saw Sky's replay, and it looked from a certain angle that there was a little bit of contact there.
Yeah, I think in real time I thought it was a penalty, but I think at that point in the game, Stoke had started the game poorly and were starting to get themselves into the game a little bit, and Stoke were making Huddersfield were making some errors coming out from the back. Here made 2 or 3 within a 5-minute spell, and ultimately it's ended up in the box. And you know, whether it's a lunge or a mistimed tackle, you know, unfortunately penalty, and you know, it's difficult from there, because then you've got to go and break a resolute team down, really. They showed real good organisation and a will to keep the ball out the net.
I was going to say, Phil, because the last few weeks we've spoke about dominating the ball, having loads of chances, and ultimately kind of defensive errors and mistakes or lapses in concentration, however you want to say it, costing us points. And it was again the kind of scenario today, wasn't it? I think that was Stoke's only shot on target, or only shot on target that I can remember, from the penalty. And again, it's just a slight error or a mistake or a lack of judgment that's cost us.
Yeah, I think I can just remember one in the second half when we trying to play out down the right, and the lad, is it McLean, that their left back, he muscled and Benza out the way halfway into our half on the byline, and he muscled his way into the box, and he had a shot and won a corner. And from the subsequent corner, that it was a very dangerous position, actually. Apart from that, I can't remember anything else really of trouble.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Dean's already said, the only issues we caused really was ourselves and the mistakes from the back. But there was not really a lot of goal mouth action. There was no, I can't remember anyone going past someone or creating something. Maybe just one of them days, you know. Sometimes, you know, I've never had a bad game from the sidelines, Dean.
No, me neither.
You know what I mean? It's brilliant, isn't it? And so, you know, we've both done it. We've got up. We've done the same routine. We're feeling good. We want to play. We get our boots on. We get out there, and all of a sudden, you feel like you're knackered. There's nothing in the tank. There's no rhyme or reason. Maybe it's one of them days. Maybe a couple of lads were just tired for midweek, and it's been a long season. Maybe they're just tired. I don't know, because it does happen. But it was a lackluster performance, really. But yeah, disappointing point, like we've already said. And you can point the fingers all over the place, but at the end of the day, on a Saturday, you need the boys to go out there. You need them to click, stick to the game plan, and expect players to do the right thing at the right time in the right positions. And particularly for me as a forward player, I want to see players going past defenders and making things happen. And I can't remember that happening very much at all. If you're not going to create nothing, you're not going to score.
Yeah, I was going to say, after this, Dean, you're obviously on the preview show where we discussed some of the woes from the Bristol City game and the frustration that the players will have had after that one, not to get any points. It's going to be a similar frustration this evening, not to get any points. They'll probably have the day off on on Sunday and go back into the office and training pitches on the Monday ahead of a full week's training. But after you've had two games that are very similar, where you've had chances, you've dominated the ball, and you've only come away with 1 point, what's that like for a group of players, and how hard is that then to kind of get over that and get ready again for the next game against Luton?
I think they'll be frustrated. They'll be frustrated today. They'll be frustrated tonight. They'll be frustrated tomorrow. But having said that, I think there was some positives out there today. Obviously, I didn't see the Bristol game, but obviously, what you said, that they've created chances and they look probably more dynamic against a team who are playing at homes in Bristol City. Might have to come out a little bit more, which maybe suited Huddersfield a little bit. But I just think, that they'll be discussing it amongst themselves. The players, they'll know they're making too many individual errors, too many sloppy passes, too many mistakes, and at the other end, not scoring enough goals, not taking enough chances. The movement's not good enough. The delivery. So I think there'll be a collective discussion, and all you can do is go out on the training ground again, sort it out. Lots of finishing, lots of crosses, lots of defending in 2v2s and 3v3s in overload and anything like that. Just refresh and give them a little bit more confidence that they can make the right decisions more often than not. Because look, everybody makes mistakes. That's normal. That's football. But when they're happening and costing you points week in, week out, and I know there's been 13, 14 different combinations at centre back, which is difficult to find some continuity, some consistency, which everybody wants. But unfortunately, injuries are a part of the game. But I think they'll take a point. Would think they should probably have had 3, but you take a point and move on.
Yeah, I was going to say, Phil, there's a full week now until our next match against Luton Town. Getting on the training pitch, having that full week is vital, isn't it? Because then they'll be able to actually do some solid work after the analysis and look at what went wrong and what was good in this one as well. Because like Dino said, there were some positives, but really nailed down the build and creating more chances.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Dean. Though they've got to go back on Monday. They've got to be positive, haven't they? The manager's got to lift them. Be really positive in training. You've got to get a smile on the face. There's nothing worse, going back in on after the weekend and you're disappointed like they're gonna be because possibly should have got 3 points. But goals change games, and they've not created enough today. So like Dean said, that's got to be worked on. I'd have my strikers on Monday and Tuesday, one-on-ones, wide positions. But I'd also make sure that the players knew what the manager expected. Maybe it's all right for me saying get by players. Maybe the manager's saying keep the ball, come back inside, keep it, and let's go to the left side, and then keep it and come back inside. And that's maybe what the manager wants. I don't know. But they've got to stay positive, keep smiling, keep working. But it's what they're working on and doing what the manager wants them to do, which is the key. And the manager will live by the sword and die by the sword because of it. But at the end of the day, they've got to go out there, cross that white line, and produce week in, week out.
Yeah, and just finally with you, Dino, obviously this is one of the first times you've been able to watch Town this year. What were your thoughts? Because like you said, there was some very good elements and equally frustrating ones.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed it. Obviously knew a little bit about Carlos's style and how he wants to play and how he wants to do things, which is something that I like. That sort of style, that high energy, the movement, being brave on the ball, taking the ball in tight areas. But yeah, I think obviously Richard Keogh played League One most of this season. At the minute, there's too many mistakes being made in that part of the pitch, and that part of the pitch you get punished. But I think when you've got Mbenda and when you've got Rolando Aarons, like Phil said, you want them 1v1. For a winger, if you're 1v1, it is bingo. Right, I'm 1v1, right, this is me. I'm getting at you. And look, Isaac's got so much pace. I didn't see it today. He's got a great delivery. Didn't see it. Rolando Aarons was very laboured and slow, and he had a couple of little glimpses of something special, but didn't see it enough. I thought Baka was good. I thought Baka was decent. He got in between the lines. He got behind Mikel and Alan in good positions in that half space behind the midfield line. Lewis, he's constant running when it goes out to toffs. You always know Lewis is running in those channels and trying to drag people about. But yeah, look, there's lots of positives, lots to work on. You can see the manager's style clearly. For me, watching probably for the first time, really properly this season, really. But you can still see a real lack of a cutting edge, really, at the top end of the pitch.
Hopefully we'll be able to work on that ahead of our game away at Luton on Saturday. Dino, Phil, thank you for joining us, and Town fans, thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.